often on this channel because it would be easier. This is an experiment. So, a couple different cameras going here right now, and I'm going to do an experiment. Let me make sure the room is clear. All right, we're good. I think I need to actually change the batteries in this thing. It would appear that it's almost dead. There we go. That's just about right. All right. Now I'm ready to make a podcast. This is going to be a live podcast. We're going to push the boundaries here of what I can talk about. And that's the reason why I'm doing this on my secondary channel. For those of you who are joining, I see there's a couple people. Because I do not want to have an issue with getting my channel censored. My main channel censored by talking about certain topics. And so, without further ado, let me make sure that my camera's focused here. There we go. All right. All right, here we go. Hello, everyone. My name is Carpo. This is my podcast for May 26th, 2021. And today I'm going to be talking a little bit about some controversial issues that previously I was reluctant to talk about because of the fear of being censored. And as many of my subscribers know on YouTube, I've had my channel hit a few times. And for those who don't know, having your channel censored basically just means that the first time you have a strike against your channel, if you talk about a topic that they don't like, they will forbid you for uploading or posting anything for a week. The second time, it's 2 weeks. The third time, they completely delete your channel. And years back, I've had my channel deleted at least, I think, 2 or 3 times. So I've been patient. I started my YouTube channel around 2010, I believe, or 11. It's been 11 years. So I think it was 2009 or 10 when I started. It was right after my middle son was born. And generally over the years, it was fascinating talking about cats, talking about life, talking about drugs. It didn't matter. I had a secondary channel where I talked about just cannabis. I would share my cannabis garden. I had a license to grow. I had a medical permit to grow because I had back pain. This was before it was legal here in Washington. And I would share this with people. And gradually YouTube started censoring things and making them for just adults. Now, I didn't care at the moment because I made my videos for my subscribers specifically. It wasn't to try to get famous or make money off of ads. In fact, back then, there was no such thing as ad revenue. But anyhow, I don't want to get too much into this, but as the years went on, I started to get strikes against my channels for talking about drugs. And here was the list of 7 things that I realized that you're probably going to get a strike for. One is racism. The next one is riots. One is vaccines or viruses. The next one is gay or trans. The next one is Israel or Palestine. The next one is China. And the 7th one is drugs or psychedelics. Now, by me mentioning these on my YouTube channel, for those who are unaware here, I have my main camera going. I also have my live cast going to see how this works with the algorithm. And then I have my podcast here. And I'm trying to figure out exactly what fucking limits we have as to what we can say in today's world. So I'm going to talk about 3 different things that I think are really important right now that I can't talk about on YouTube. The first one is what's going on with COVID-19. And I'm going to use all the key words without trying to hide anything. The whole last year that we've been dealing with this bullshit virus, I have been in full support of protecting each other, of doing the best we can to defend our, our trade, to protect our people, even vaccines, things like that. Well, I made a video 2 weeks ago on YouTube and I talked about vaccines. And I didn't say anything opposed to it. I just said I'm waiting and I'm a little bit skeptical. YouTube decided to not just demonetize or give me a strike, but delete the video and not let me upload for 2 weeks. And it got me to thinking about how when you try to censor what people are going to say, they're going to say it louder. And so maybe that's why I'm testing the waters here. And because I paid $20 a month to host my own podcast, I don't have very many viewers. In fact, I've had my podcast for about a year now, and I've only had about 1,700 views total, maybe less. And that's okay with me, because the people that listen care and listen not because it's some popular show, but because they're interested in perhaps the topic. So the point being here that recently there has been some research that's come out about what's going on with this virus, and it's something that I can't help but just laugh at the fact that now they're finally admitting that this thing might have escaped from the Wuhan laboratory. Now, mind you, this laboratory does gain of function research on viruses, and specifically coronaviruses. I know a lot of people don't understand the science behind this, but they take existing viruses in nature and then they amplify them and basically manipulate them naturally to allow them to for their various scientific studies. The point being that 3 people, now it's declared, that back in November of 2019 were sick in the hospital in Wuhan with some sort of a strange illness from the laboratory, and that they believe that this has been a cover-up from the start. Now, I want people to really sit back for a minute before you think, oh, conspiracy, or it doesn't matter. Think of the implications. If a virus that got out naturally versus a virus that escaped from a laboratory because of poor handling or on purpose, regardless, it doesn't matter. And think of the implications of a failure to protect the people and how much this has cost the world. And if somebody were really to blame, how bad this could be for China. Naturally, they're going to cover it up. Regardless of who did it, it's going to be an issue. I've listened to the scientists who say, well, it doesn't matter. It was naturally created. There's no sign that it was manipulated by genetic, researchers. Maybe this is true, but there's more than one way to manipulate a virus. You can, of course, change the, corona of the virus, which is the spike proteins on it, but you can also allow that to naturally evolve by rapidly processing it through different animals. And this is what they do. That's what gain of function research is. And for me to kind of facepalm and look back and say, yeah, that's what Fauci was denying a year ago, and now he's trying to eat his words. A year ago, I said Fauci and guys like Fauci and Gates aren't even that bad. And I still cringe whenever I see videos who just continuously talk about these guys. But I found out that Bill Gates was preventing or suggesting and recommending that these companies that make these vaccines not make it publicly available, not release this, what they call intellectual property rights, to the world for everyone to make a vaccine for themselves. Now, the thing that bothers me the most about this is that your tax dollars, I don't care if you're an American, your tax dollars paid for these vaccines to be made. The American government gives so much money to research in the pharmaceutical industry, and then we pay twice. And in this instance, it's absolutely no different. That's pretty fucked up, if you ask me. So, but the main problem here is that Fauci was a major proponent of gain of function research, And I really don't want to get into the details of who is to blame because I don't blame him. I don't blame Gates. I don't blame any of these people. I blame the gatekeepers, if you will. And in this case, it would be the Chinese government and the Chinese media that were hiding these things, altering articles, arresting doctors. There was a lot of shit that went on. So here we are. A year later, COVID turns out to not be as dangerous as we thought. I hate to say it. I was one of the people who was saying I support a lockdown, and at the very beginning I did until we got it figured out. But now, you know, I think we've learned a little bit more. Before I forget this, this is why I'm bringing up the China thing. My wife actually is a member of like a local group. It's kind of like a left wing, I guess, if you want to say it's like a Democrat group where they talk about politics and whatnot. She mentioned that there may have been a lab leak in Wuhan. Her comment was edited, it was moderated and deleted, and she got shit from the moderator for spreading so called conspiracies. Now, here's the thing, it was the next day that this information started coming out in the mainstream. And the only reason that the people were dismissing her claims was because the news was telling them differently. And because Trump or any politician on the right had said something different. Here's the problem we have is that it's not a matter of believing what politicians are telling us what. It's a matter of believing the science. But now we can't even believe the science. So we don't even know what to believe anymore. We really don't. With this virus going on, what we were told at the beginning was lockdown for a while, then get back to normal. Let's make sure that we don't flood the hospitals. Guess what happened? We didn't flood the hospitals. And then the people who were on the left, let's say, the people who are the more liberal or progressive people who did support the lockdown and did wear their masks and said that's okay, at a point started saying, all right, this is enough. This is bullshit. And now we have everyone on both sides basically turning against these people saying, you don't know what the fuck you're doing. You don't know how you're recommending any of this shit. You're making up these stories about what's right and what's wrong for individuals and, how to spread let me put it this way. I believe that masks can stop you from spitting into the air to a degree. So yes, I believe that they're helpful. I also believe that vaccines can help some people, especially those most, you know. And this is the problem I have is when I get to this point, I'm going to tell you I haven't been vaccinated and I don't plan to be. And I think this is what I said on YouTube that got my channel, my video deleted. It was not that I said I'm not going to and that it's bad. I said that I don't plan to at the current moment and that I have every right to be cautious and wary. And, whoa, I've got a hair in my mouth. Sorry about that. That was weird. So, what we've got is a virus that may or may not be as dangerous as it's claimed to be. And when you talk about it and you have your own claim, you're basically censored for it. I think that's wrong. Finally, we're moving out of that shit. We really are. Hopefully. I'm going to pause the podcast for a minute and I'm going to say hello to people. Hello, Cat Wild. Hello, Eric. It's good to see you all. Hope you all are doing well. I'm making a podcast right now about controversial issues I can't really talk about on YouTube, and I'll probably have this video deleted, so not by choice, just that's how YouTube is. So, the second issue. Oh no. That sucks. I accidentally turned it off. Why did I do that? I was trying to pause it. That's okay. I'll have to join them together now. Damn it. Now I screwed it up. That sucks. Okay. Here we go. Delete. Well, actually, that was about 14 minutes of a recording. Maybe I should just go on to what I was going to talk about after this. And I'll just make a secondary podcast. It's not a bad idea. Racism, riots, vaccines, viruses, gay, trans, Israel, China, drugs, psychedelics. So many topics I can't talk about. But I'm doing it because I want to see the limits of YouTube's algorithm. Maybe I should say as a disclaimer, nothing here is intended to diagnose, prevent, or cure any disease. The gatekeepers of knowledge. Now I start to sound like a fanatic. It's really important that we realize this is a true thing. And the media has become so much worse. I take it for granted that I'm aware that the media is full of shit, but a lot of people believe anything they hear. Man, it's depressing as fuck. It really is. So anyway, the first part of my podcast here was somehow I turned off my recorder. It was about gain of function research and the whole COVID thing, but I'm going to get some batteries. I'll be right back here. I didn't intend on doing a live cast. It was just kind of a test run to see what YouTube will allow because, I'm tired of being censored, even if I have my own opinions. But here's the thing. When I'm making a podcast, fuck YouTube. They can't censor me for anything. They can censor this video, but they won't be able to censor the podcast. So if you don't follow the podcast, if you might miss a YouTube video, make sure you listen to the 15-minute Free Thinking podcast. So here we go. Here's part 2 of this video, which I guess would be a podcast, if you will. The controversial podcast, which originally was about the virus, about gain of function research, and the whole bullshit that's happened over the last year. But this is part 2 because I accidentally turned it off instead of pausing it. And the second part, as I mentioned in the beginning, there are like 7 main controversial topics that I came up with, which is like racism and the riots and vaccines, viruses, gay and trans, Israel, China, drugs, psychedelics, any type of idea that makes somebody else feel bad, right? I don't know how drugs and psychedelics fall into that, but somehow they do. But as far as this story, the second part of this, not dealing with viruses or any of the bullshit because it's kind of a joke at this point, is more about, for example, what happened in Israel, recently, where a bunch of Israeli police raided the Al-Aqsa Mosque and they basically stormed the place and were shooting rubber bullets and gassing people. This is what pissed people off. And then it started this whole 11-day complete, you might call it a war, you can call it division, call it whatever you want. But Israel is considered one of the most highly developed countries in the world. I mean, they have the technology to do basically any type of warfare they choose. They have the most highly trained military spies, the best missiles, the best planes. Yet, for some reason, they still managed to kill 67 children out of, 250 people. I mean, we're talking 1 in 4 people killed was a child during this last issue. I really wanted to talk about this because, a lot of people want to defend Israel, saying they deserve their land, they deserve to have their own space. Yeah, sure, of course, everyone does. But it's like I say, I have my own home. If I started building huts in the neighbor's backyard, they might have a problem with my opinion on this, and that's what it is. These, quote, Israeli settlers, some of these Israeli settlers come from New York or other countries. In other words, yes, there are Americans moving from the Bronx back to, or for the first time to Israel, and then moving into these settlements and basically taking over people's land. The way I like to see it is the word settler basically means that you're taking someone's land every time. Settlers always are taking over homes. Same thing with people here. We took over Native American land. I'm not here to blame anybody or point fingers at modern society. I'm here to say this happened. Ethnic cleansing, turning a blind eye to what's really going on out there. And it's not just outside of Israel either. There are mobs of Israelis who have gone door to door beating people in their own homes, marking them with red paint, coming back with police, beating the shit out of people. Now, Hamas naturally has a direct response to this. War. That's what they do. And that's all they know because that's the only response that they can have. You know, this is probably the most controversial statement I could possibly make. I'm going to try to put it in a way that doesn't sound too controversial, but there's one holy site that everyone battles over, if you will, and Temple Mount. Everyone wants to build there. My thought would be blow the place up. Somebody, I shouldn't say blow that. I say I wish an asteroid would hit that place and completely annihilate it. Not just an asteroid, a highly radioactive asteroid, which would eliminate any access to any of these holy sites. However, I wish that the people would get out in time. My point being, I don't want anyone to get hurt. But if people continue to fight for thousands of years over a stupid piece of desert, I don't see any real solution to this other than death, more and more death. Holy sites have always been a contentious issue with people. The thing is, Palestine is occupied, the West Bank is occupied territory, and there are Israelis who are trying to take over people's properties. And, with Israel having as much weapons import and export as they do, I feel like people have the right to have an opinion about what's going on over there. It's bothersome. And it's not just Israel. Because in America, the reason I bring this up is because you can't even talk about this in the media here. If you're not pro-Israel, people will lose their fucking credentials. They are stripped of their right to even report with news agencies. So I felt like I had to talk about it, I mean, I understand that Jews have been persecuted. I understand that the Holocaust happened. But that has nothing at all to do with what's going on in today's world and the way people are taking advantage of each other, the way that people are stripping each other of their land. And I don't give a damn what color you are or what religion you are. I don't. I care how you treat other people, especially when you're in a position of power. So that's all I've got for that podcast here. So I'm going to leave this part. Thanks for listening, my friends. I don't want to finish the live cast yet. I'm going to stay on the live cast. I get kind of bored with doing a podcast / live cast. So I'm going to turn this one off as well. And I'll just do a quick Q&A. Honestly, I had more of an intention to be more focused on this, but I just don't know how to address it, Too much to talk about. Yep. It's been an interesting world, my friends. Been an interesting life. Thanks for coming along for this brief live cast. We'll see if this thing endures. We'll see if YouTube decides to delete it. And if not, then I guess I'll know where my limits are, right? Peace out.